My wife cheated on me at a party, and I left her because of it. But years later, she found me, knocked at my door, and revealed the incredible truth, which changed everything. And I regretted leaving her.
My wife cheated on me at a party. I left immediately. Years later, she found me and revealed the unbelievable truth about that day. Those words don't capture the weight of it. They don't explain how betrayal echoes, how it circles back when you least expect it, how the past doesn't always stay buried just because you walked away from it. The night she came back into my life, everything was quiet. Too quiet. I was stretched out on my couch in my apartment, the television humming softly in the background. One of those mindless reality shows played, the kind you don't really watch, just let wash over you. I wasn't asleep, but I wasn't fully awake either. My body was heavy, my thoughts slow, my mind drifting without direction. It had been that kind of evening, ordinary, forgettable. Then the doorbell rang. The sound cut through the stillness like a blade, sharp, sudden. Jarring, I flinched, my heart jumping in my chest as if I'd been caught doing something wrong. The familiar chime echoed through the apartment, snapping me out of my half-doze and pulling me upright. For a second, I just sat there, staring at the door. Annoyed, confused. Who drops by unannounced on a Tuesday night? I swung my legs off the couch and stood, irritation mixing with a faint, inexplicable sense of unease. As I shuffled toward the door, that feeling grew stronger. A subtle pressure in my chest. A quiet warning I couldn't explain. Something about this felt wrong. I slowed as I reached the door and leaned toward the peephole, expecting maybe a neighbor, a delivery mistake, anyone, but my heart nearly stopped. On the other side of the door stood Laura, my wife. No, my ex-wife. The woman I had walked away from 3 years earlier without looking back. The woman whose name I hadn't spoken out loud in years. The woman I had buried beneath distance, silence, and a life rebuilt piece by piece. And yet there she was, older maybe, thinner, familiar in a way that made my stomach drop. Those same hazel eyes stared back at the door, uncertain, almost nervous, like she wasn't sure I would answer. How the hell had she found me? For a brief, desperate moment, I considered backing away, pretending I wasn't home, letting the doorbell ring unanswered until she gave up and disappeared back into whatever corner of my past she belonged in. But I knew Laura. If she had tracked me down after all this time, if she had stood outside my door like this, she wasn't leaving without a fight. With a resigned sigh, I reached for the latch, unhooked the safety chain, and cracked the door open just enough to see her clearly. "What the hell do you want?" I snapped. The words came out harsher than I intended, rough with years of resentment I thought I'd put to rest. Her eyes locked onto mine instantly. Those eyes, the same ones that used to undo me with a single look. "I need to talk to you," she said softly. "Please, Evan, I need to explain." I barked out a laugh, sharp and humorless. "Explain," I said. "You can't be serious." I shook my head, disbelief flooding my voice. "I think the way I left should have made it pretty clear that I had no interest in ever seeing you again, let alone talking to you." She flinched, just slightly, but she didn't step back. "I don't understand why you left," she said, desperation creeping into her tone. "I came home and you were just gone, no note, no message, just empty closets and silence." I stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "You can't be serious," I repeated. "You really don't know why," my jaw tightened. "You're crazy if you think I would have stayed after what you did. You heard me. I warned you exactly what would happen if you went through with your plans that night." Her brow furrowed in confusion, like she was genuinely struggling to connect the dots. "Evan, please," she said. "Can I come in? We need to talk about this." I hesitated. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to slam the door in her face, to protect the life I'd built here, the peace I'd fought for, the distance I'd put between myself and the wreckage she left behind. But there was another part of me, smaller, quieter, a part I thought I'd buried years ago, curiosity. What could she possibly say now? "Fine," I muttered, stepping aside. "Let's get this over with." As Laura walked past me into the apartment, a familiar scent hit me. Her perfume. The same one she'd worn on our first date. For a split second, I was transported back in time, back to nervous laughter, cheap wine, and the way she'd smiled at me like I was the only person in the room. I shook my head sharply, forcing the memory away. She perched on the edge of the couch, glancing around my apartment with open curiosity, like she was trying to piece together the life I'd built without her. "Can I have a glass of water?" she asked quietly. I nodded, grateful for the excuse to step away. In the kitchen, as I filled a glass at the sink, my thoughts drifted backward to the night that had changed everything. I had just gotten home from work that evening, loosening my tie as I stepped through the door, tired but relieved to be home. Then I saw her. Laura stood in the living room, dressed to the nines, a little black dress hugging her curves. Makeup done just enough to be intentional, heels by the door. The sight stopped me cold. "Are we going out?" I asked, confused. I couldn't remember making any plans. Her laugh was light, but there was something sharp underneath it. "We don't have plans," she said, applying a final coat of lipstick. "I have a date tonight." The world tilted. "A date?" I repeated stupidly. "With who?" "You don't know him," she said, avoiding my eyes. "He works with me. He's new at the company. He asked me to go to Marissa's birthday party with him. He didn't want to go alone." Marissa. The name alone made my teeth grind. Laura's so-called best friend, 4 divorces. Every single one ending the same way, caught cheating. I'd never understood how my sweet, loyal Laura could stay so close to someone like that. "He knows you're married, right?" I asked tightly. She shrugged, infuriatingly casual. "It doesn't matter. Nothing's going to happen. I just didn't want to go alone, and you never want to come with me." I took a breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "You understand why I won't go, don't you?" I said. "I can't stand being around her, and I don't want you caught up in her world." Her eyes flashed. "Get used to it, Evan," she snapped. "She's been my best friend since 1st grade. I'm not turning my back on her just because you don't like her." "I don't like her because she cheats," I shot back. "Because her parties are full of drugs and bad decisions. And because now you're dressed like this, going on a date with another man." Her face flushed with anger. "That's a horrible thing to say." "No, it isn't," I said. "What did you wear to her last parties? Slacks, jeans, sweaters." "This." I gestured at her dress. "This is different." The silence that followed told me everything. Standing in my kitchen now, years later, I turned off the tap and stared at the glass in my hand, the weight of that night pressing down on me all over again. I walked back into the living room and handed her the water. She looked up at me, guilt flickering across her face. And suddenly I knew. The past hadn't come back to haunt me, it had come back to confess. I continued, my voice dropping, low, tight, and dangerous. "I know," I said quietly. "I know because I've overheard enough of your conversations to piece it together. Marissa's been pushing you to join her little parties for years. Whispering in your ear, nudging, encouraging." I held her gaze, my chest burning. "I guess she's finally gotten what she's been after." "You're wrong," Laura insisted quickly, but the words didn't land with the force she intended. Her voice wavered. "It isn't like that." I stepped closer, close enough that she couldn't avoid my eyes. "Then prove me wrong," I said, my voice cracking despite my effort to stay calm. "Stay here tonight, just for a little while. Stay with me, for a brief moment, just a heartbeat." I thought I saw hesitation flicker across her face. Doubt, conflict, maybe even regret, then she shook her head. "I can't," she said. "Caleb is counting on me." The words hit me like a physical blow to the chest. "And he's more important to you than I am?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer. "All I'm saying, Laura," I continued, my voice hollow now, "is that if you walk out that door tonight, you're kissing our marriage goodbye." She rolled her eyes, dismissive, almost annoyed. "Don't be ridiculous," she said. "This won't hurt us at all." She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, pausing only long enough to toss a careless remark over her shoulder. "Don't wait up." As her hand closed around the doorknob, something inside me finally gave way. "Goodbye, Laura," I said. There was no anger left in my voice, only certainty. She froze, just for a second or two. I know she heard the finality in my tone. I know she felt it. But then she opened the door and she was gone. I stood there staring at the closed door long after the sound of her footsteps faded. Time stretched, warped, lost its meaning. Part of me couldn't believe what had just happened. Another part of me, an older, quieter part, had seen it coming for months. When I finally wandered back into the living room, my thoughts were racing. Was I overreacting? Was I imagining things? Maybe. But the Laura I knew, the Laura I married, would never have done this. She would have understood why I was upset. She would have stayed. She would have chosen us. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and popped the cap off with more force than necessary. Foam fizzed over the rim as I took a long, bitter swig. And then the memories came flooding in. The late nights at work. The secretive phone calls she took in the other room. The way she'd subtly pull away when I leaned in to kiss her. And always, always Marissa. I'd overheard snippets of their conversations more than once. "Live a little," Marissa would say. "Forget about that fuddy-duddy you're married to." Laura always laughed it off. Always swore she loved me too much to ever cheat. But now she was out on a date with another man, dressed to impress, at one of Marissa's parties. Of course she was. The hours dragged by in a haze of anger, hurt, and disbelief. I paced, I sat. I stared at the TV without seeing it. By the time midnight rolled around, a hard truth had settled in my gut. I couldn't live like this anymore. I couldn't spend my life wondering if my wife was faithful, competing with Marissa's toxic influence, feeling like the odd man out in my own marriage. I was just about to head to bed when the phone rang. My stomach tightened as I glanced at the caller ID. Marissa. My hands felt cold as I picked up. "Hello," I said cautiously. Her voice came through the line, slow, slurred, soaked in alcohol. "Oh, did I wake you up?" I clenched my jaw. "What do you want, Marissa?" She laughed, a grating, ugly sound. "Just calling to let you know," she said sweetly, "that your wife has finally found herself a real man." My blood ran cold. "What the hell are you talking about?" "Exactly what I said," she replied, her voice dripping with malicious glee. "Laura's found herself a real man tonight, someone who can give her what she really needs." Before I could respond, before I could even breathe, the sounds came through the phone. Moans, breathless gasps, a voice I knew better than my own. Laura's. "Oh God, yes, please, harder." I slammed the phone down, my hands shaking violently. This couldn't be happening, not Laura, not my Laura, but it was. And in that moment I knew, without question, our marriage was over. The rest of the night passed in a frenzy. I packed everything that mattered, loading my truck with clothes, tools, and fragments of a life I was abandoning. By the time the sun rose, I was ready to leave it all behind. I went to the bank the moment it opened and cleaned out my accounts. Then I drove straight to work. I told Jake, my boss, that I was quitting, no notice. I told him why. To his credit, he didn't judge me. He cut my final check, helped me load my tools, told me I could use him as a reference, and wished me luck. My phone started ringing around 7 o'clock am Laura. Again, and again, and again. I turned the phone off. Then I thought better of it. I didn't know what strings she could pull to get a new number, so I tossed the phone into a trash can and bought a burner at Walmart. By 10 o'clock a.m., I was on the road. No destination, just away. I ended up in Castle Rock, Colorado, found a job in my field, rented a small apartment, tried to start over. For 2 years, I lived quietly, dated a little, nothing serious. And then, out of nowhere, there was Laura on my doorstep. Back in the present, I realized I'd been standing in the kitchen far too long. With a heavy sigh, I grabbed the glass of water and returned to the living room. Laura was still perched on the edge of the couch, studying my space like it held answers. She looked up and offered a tentative smile. "Here," I said gruffly, handing her the water. "Now what do you want?" She took a sip before speaking. "I want to explain what happened that night, Evan," she said softly. "It's not what you think." I crossed my arms, leaning against the wall. "Really?" I said flatly. "Because it seems pretty clear. You went on a date. You ended up in bed with him. End of story." Her eyes filled with tears. "No," she whispered. "Evan, I was drugged." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "What?" She nodded, her voice shaking. "Someone slipped something into my drink at that party. I didn't go there to cheat. It was the farthest thing from my mind." She swallowed hard. "I swear to you." Maybe I did overdress for the party," Laura said quietly. She lowered her eyes as if the admission itself carried weight. "But Marissa asked me to. She insisted." I didn't interrupt. I couldn't. My body felt locked in place as I listened. "She told me she didn't like Caleb," Laura continued. "But she said she couldn't tell him not to come. It was an open invitation. Everyone from the office was welcome. So instead, she asked me to distract him." I felt my jaw tighten. "She told me to dress revealingly," Laura said, swallowing hard. "To let him think he had a chance. She said it would keep him occupied, keep him out of her way." My chest burned as the implications settled in. "I like dressing up," Laura went on, her voice thin but steady. "So I did, and Caleb, he took one look at me and thought he'd hit the jackpot." She let out a breath that trembled. "He stuck to me the entire night like glue, almost like he was afraid that if he left my side for even a minute, someone else might take me away from him." I stared at the floor, my hands clenched. "It was a fun party at first," she said. "Music, laughter, people dancing. Even though Caleb hovered nearby, other guys noticed me too. I could feel their eyes. I danced with a few of them, nothing serious, just dancing." She paused, gathering herself. Then, as the party was winding down, I started to feel strange. Dizzy, heavy, like the room wouldn't stay still. My stomach twisted. "Marissa told me I'd probably had too much to drink," Laura said. "She helped me to one of her spare bedrooms, said I should lie down for a bit." Laura's hands trembled slightly as she wrapped them around her glass. "I don't know when it started," she whispered, "or how. I just remember slowly becoming aware that someone was touching me, that I was being used." My chest tightened painfully. "I thought I was home," she said, her voice barely audible now. "I thought I was in bed with you." I shut my eyes. Then I heard someone laugh, Laura continued. Someone say, "Hurry it up, your turn's next." She took a shaky breath. I opened my eyes and I saw Marissa, I saw Caleb, I saw Ben Grady. My pulse thundered in my ears. There were others, she said, men standing around, naked, waiting. She looked at me then, really looked at me, her eyes pleading for me to understand. "You know me, Evan," she said softly. "You know what I'm like when we're together. I lose myself, I stop thinking. I don't know how many men, how many times before I passed out." I felt physically sick. My hands curled into fists, nails biting into my palms. The image was unbearable, but I forced myself to stay silent, to listen. "I woke up the next morning next to Bob Flanagan," Laura said hollowly. "He was propped up on one elbow, staring at me." She swallowed. I asked him what happened, and he just laughed. He said he never thought I'd cheat on you, said he was glad I did, said he hoped to see more of me. Her voice broke. I slapped him hard. Then I got dressed and went straight to the hospital. She took another sip of water, her hand shaking now. "I told them I thought I'd been drugged," she said. "They ran tests, found traces of Rohypnol and ecstasy in my blood." My breath caught. "They called the police." A storm of emotions crashed through me, shock, anger, confusion, guilt. "Why didn't you call me?" I asked, my voice rough. Barely under control, Laura looked up, her eyes swollen and red. "I tried," she said. "Over and over, while I was waiting for the police, you didn't answer." She took a shuddering breath. "I found out why when I got home and you were gone." Her voice cracked. "I cried for 2 days straight." Guilt slammed into me like a wave. "When the police questioned me," Laura continued, "I told them everything I remembered. They spoke to Flanagan first." Her jaw tightened. "He told them he didn't know I was drugged, said he thought it was normal, said that's what always happened at Marissa's parties and that I knew it, that I'd even watched before." I shook my head slowly, overwhelmed. "He said he thought I'd finally decided to join in." I dragged a hand through my hair. "Jesus, Laura," I muttered. "I had no idea." She nodded, tears spilling freely now. "The police suspected Caleb," she said. "When they pressured him, he folded, told them it was all Marissa's idea." Laura's voice hardened. She said she knew I secretly wanted it, that she just needed to give me a push. She thought once the drugs wore off, I'd love it, that I'd want to keep doing it. Her hands clenched. "She was wrong," Laura said firmly. "She ignored the one thing I told her over and over again." She looked at me, eyes blazing through tears. "I told her I would never do anything like that without you. You had to be part of it, or it wouldn't happen." Ever, my head was spinning. This wasn't the story I'd imagined for years. It was darker, messier, and painfully human. "What happened after that?" I asked quietly. "When I was discharged," Laura said, "a police officer drove me home. That's when I realized you were gone for good." Her voice dropped. "I hired an attorney. I sued everyone who touched me." She faltered on the words, pain flashing across her face. "Most of the cases were dismissed. They all said the same thing Flanagan did." She exhaled slowly. "But the cases against Marissa and Caleb stuck. The police proved they conspired against me." I leaned forward despite myself. "What happened?" Laura gave a bitter, humorless smile. "I won, but Marissa had nothing except her house. She still owed $300,000 on it." She paused. "With the money I got from Caleb, I paid it off. Then I sold it." I nodded slowly, the pieces finally aligning. "And that's how you found me," I said. "Yes," Laura replied softly. "I hired a private investigator." She met my eyes. "And here I am." We sat in silence, the weight of everything she'd said pressing down between us. Heavy, unresolved, impossible to ignore. Finally, I spoke. "You wasted your money on the private investigator," I said quietly. My voice was flat, drained of warmth. "By the time it took you to track me down and stand here in front of me, Laura, it was already too late." She looked at me, confusion flickering across her face. "For what?" she asked softly. "To get us back together." Her eyes lifted to mine, filled with a dangerous mix of hope and stubborn determination. "I love you, Evan," she said. "I belong with you. I've always belonged with you." I shook my head slowly, frustration tightening my chest. "You would have been smarter to spend that money on a lawyer," I replied. "You could have gotten a divorce years ago. Abandonment would have been an easy case." Her expression hardened instantly. "I didn't want a divorce," Laura shot back. "I never wanted one. What you want doesn't matter to me anymore," I said, my voice turning cold. "Not now, not ever." "I didn't do it willingly, Evan," she pleaded. "I was drugged." I ran a hand through my hair, feeling the old anger stir, familiar, bitter, exhausting. "And you did willingly walk out that door," I said, "even after I warned you, even after I told you exactly what would happen if you left." She opened her mouth, but I didn't let her interrupt. I told you, Laura, I told you that if you walked out that door, you were kissing your marriage goodbye. You ignored me. You dismissed me, and you left anyway. Her shoulders sagged. The way I disappeared should have told you everything you needed to know, I continued. That chasing me down would be a waste of your time and your money. Her face crumpled. I had to come, she said, her voice breaking. If there was any chance at all to put us back together, I had to try. I felt irritation flare hot and sharp. You're still not listening, I snapped. You aren't paying attention now any more than you did the night you walked out on me. I stepped back, crossing my arms. Pay attention, Laura, I don't want you, I don't want us. You cannot put this marriage back together because I do not, I emphasized every word, want to get back together with a woman who could do what you did. Damn it, Evan, she cried, frustration spilling over. Can't you understand? I did not choose that night. I didn't choose any of it. I was drugged. I took a slow breath, forcing my temper down. You're the one not understanding, I said evenly. It isn't about what happened at Maris's house. I expected something like that to happen. I warned you. She shook her head, desperate. It's about what you did before that, I continued. Before you ever left this apartment, the total lack of respect you showed me. She scoffed weakly. Don't be ridiculous, Evan, she said. This won't hurt us at all. I laughed bitterly. That sentence, I said, was the moment everything died. She stared at me. You walked out that door to go on a date with another man, I said. That was the end of us. Whatever survived after that was already dead. She opened her mouth to argue. No, I said firmly. We're done talking. I glanced toward the hallway. Please leave. I'm hungry and I need to get ready for dinner. I'll eat with you, Laura said quickly. We can talk more. I can convince you you're wrong. Her words hadn't even faded. I'm home, babe, a cheerful voice called. What's for dinner? A stunning blonde woman stepped inside and stopped short when she saw Laura. Oh, she said, smiling politely. Who's this? I cleared my throat. Jessica, this is Laura, I said. You've heard me mention her once or twice. Laura, I added, this is Jessica. To my surprise, Jessica's face lit up. She walked over to Laura, leaned down, and hugged her. Thank you, Jessica said warmly. Thank you for sending Evan to me. Laura stood frozen, shock written all over her face. Jessica turned to me. So, she said brightly, what's for dinner? I thought we'd go out, I replied. I made reservations at Angelo's. Jessica beamed. Perfect, I'll go change. She hugged Laura again, lightly. Nice meeting you, she said. Maybe sometime we can get together and compare notes. She disappeared into the bedroom. As soon as she was out of earshot, Laura turned to me, face pale. Does she know, she asked quietly, that you're still married? I nodded. She does. Laura's jaw tightened with renewed resolve. You need to tell her I'm not giving up, she said. I'm going to fight for you. I sighed, exhaustion washing over me. Get real, Laura, I said. To fight for me, you'd have to be part of my life. And that's never going to happen. Her eyes filled with tears. Get a divorce, I continued. Find another man, and when you do, don't do to him what you did to me. Damn it, Evan, she sobbed. Why can't you understand? I didn't cheat on you, I was drugged. My patience finally snapped. And you had to be there to be drugged, I said sharply. That's the point. I told you not to go, I warned you, you ignored me. I shook my head. You left, marriage over, it's that simple. I'm not divorcing you, Laura said thickly. And your girlfriend will never marry you. I couldn't help laughing. She can't marry me, I said. She's already married, same situation I'm in. Her husband won't give her a divorce either. Laura stood, her legs unsteady. I'll leave, she said, but I'm not going far. I'm moving here, I'll get you back. I shook my head slowly. No, you won't, I said. I've been clear, I do not want you, now go. She left in tears, but she left. Jessica emerged moments later, radiant in a simple black dress. Why aren't you ready? She asked. Did you change your mind? No, I said, smiling faintly. It just took longer to get rid of the past than I expected. She's gone for good, Jessica asked. Yes, she smiled. That's good, she said softly, because I'm not letting you go anywhere. As I headed to the bedroom, relief settled over me. The past was finally behind me. Laura might think she was fighting for me, but she was fighting a war that had already ended. I paused at the bedroom door, watching Jessica hum to herself, flipping through a magazine. Yeah, I thought. I've already got everything I need, right here.